And welcome back to part 2 of the VK build series. If you haven't seen part 1, do yourself a favour, go watch that before you watch this, because it'll make a lot more sense if you do it that way. But in this one, we continue on with the rust repair and fix all of the rust so that it's over and done with, especially around the front window. Then we take the motor out of this, get the donor motor, chuck it in this, get it running, and then we pull it all back out again and paint the engine bay. I hope you enjoy. Let's go.
I would like to get this glass out without breaking it. This is just about to pop out. Here we have it. What are we going to do with it now? When I laid it down, it broke. Look at that rusty goodness. Doesn't look too bad. Oh my goodness. Look what I've seen up here. Looking right there. That is pretty bad. We have more rust repairs to do. I've gone around with the vacuum cleaner and cleaned out all the dirt. I want to start wheeling this. After a few hours, I think I've got all the paint off that I need to get off around the window lip. And let's have a closer look at what's going on. That there will probably need to be cut out to there. We have a hole there that the wire wheel just blew through. A little bit there, a little bit there. The side of the A-pillar is hacked. We go up and around, and we're going to have to fix that. There's a little bit of pitting along. Don't think that'll be too bad. We'll have a look when we get there. And then we've got the really bad bit here. Just going to need a big patch panel. And we come down to the bottom. That surface rust that was along there blew off, which was quite good. And come to the driver's side. It's a lot worse than the other side, so I'm going to need probably to replace that because there's layers missing. But pretty much from there to there is shot. There's a little hole there. Hopefully that can just be a weld in that, and that'll be good. But this is probably my biggest concern. Other than that, it's perfect. It's time to start repairing the rust. Which piece do I start with? I'm going to start right here. That piece is cut out. Patch panel number 1 has been made. I have that piece tacked in. That's ready to be fully buzzed in. That's fully welded in, but not without dramas. I did manage to catch the carpet on fire, but that was big flames, and then that sponge caught fire. That piece is ground back and finished. So that piece has turned out very well. That's what I have marked out to cut out here on the top of the roof. It's a fairly nice clean cut. Going to make up something similar to that shape. There we have the patch panel in place, ready to weld in. Okay, that piece is in. It's turned out not too shabby. The only issue I did have was
I let it get a bit too hot on the top, on the roof skin, and it has a little buckle there. Here is the next patch. I have marked where I'm going to cut it out. If you can see in there, there's a bit of surface rust and stuff in there that I'll need to clean up before we replace that, but that's okay. That would have been from water getting in from all these holes.
Well, would you look at that? That is pretty darn close. I need to just take a little bit more off here. I have that tacked in now. That's fully welded in. I'm going to let that cool down properly and go and have some lunch, but it has warped in there again, just a little bit. All right, that is now ground back. Let's get stuck into this. I've marked out what I think is no good in green texture. I could probably go down there. That bit there is all right, and then that as a separate one. But that's spot welded on there, and that's a 2-layer lip. Instead of cutting the whole thing out, I think I will unpick that and then cut that and do 2 separate ones. A bit of cutting and drilling has been going on, and this should come out like that. That should clean up pretty good. I reckon I could have just probably welded those up, but it's too late now. I'll somehow remake that. First piece of that piece is well underway. It needs a trim there and needs a trim there, but look at that shape that's got to be made. Now that wasn't easy. See if I can do it one hand. Bend it up. About yay. Undo it. Fold is somewhere in the vicinity of what I want. So with something like that, it's pretty close. So the next one is we need to then straighten it and build it that way. If that fits in there, that'll be nice, but I doubt it will. No, it doesn't, so we have to go that way. Put it on the line. Line it up. And just double check which way it wants to go. Not that way. It's got to be hit back this way. Getting pretty close. It's time to bend that bit, I reckon. And bend. And that should be close. Okay, there I have the 2 pieces that line up pretty damn close to each other. Now when that goes in, that's going to have to go, obviously still needs to be trimmed up. Trim up there, trim down there, trim down there. So that bit's going to go something like that. And then this piece still needs to be trimmed up. It's going to go something like that. Needs to be trimmed along there. And weld the 2 together. Bingo bango. Window lip repaired. I'm going to finish trimming those up to the right shape and come back to you when it's ready to weld together. Piece is cut back to sizes, and I have one tack in there, and that's pretty much ready to go and be welded. That is now welded together. Now I need to drill a few holes in the back there for the spot welds into that panel. It does need a little bit of massaging on this corner and that corner to get the full shape of that, but we'll do that once that's tacked in and I can just tap it down. I have a few tacks in here, there and around the place. I've drilled my holes to plug weld. I've belted that side to get it down levelish with that. That side came down all right. There is quite a wide gap to fill with weld, but I think I'm up to the job. Let's see if I can get this thing fully welded in. There I have it. It's fully welded in. I don't think there's too much distortion going on anywhere. Still quite warm, so I'm going to let that cool properly, and I'll grind that once that's fully cooled down. Grinding back has begun and is almost done. I did repair that. There was a hole there, and I've just found another hole there that I'm going to fix. And I just need to put a little piece in there, and then this section is done. Now it's done. Even that piece in there is done. Moving right along from finishing that side, I have to do the exact same thing on this side. I have cut the piece out already, and as you can see, there's a fair bit missing on this side. That will clean up all right. I will do the same as I did on that side. This I will make in two pieces, weld together, fit in. Two pieces are cut out, folded. Now just got to trim to size, make it fit, weld together. The second time around is a lot quicker than the first time around, I can tell you that. Know where to fold, know when to bend. The old Kenny Rogers. You're going to know when to hold, know when to fold. That's now welded together, almost proper fitment. Shave a little bit more off there, I reckon. Put some holes in there for the plug welding. As with the other side, tap down there, get it onto the lip. That's ready to go. That is now welded in, just needs to be ground back. But I have a hot tip for you guys. If you ever decide to do these repairs with your dash in, make sure you take these out. These bits here, they go, under the dash here to cover up all the venting and everything. This foam gets one little spark on it, boom, goes up in flames. I had a dash fire. I severely melted out the heater duct, so that needs to be repaired. That has been ground back and gone over with the air sander. All that's left to do now is etch prime, and then the arduous task of bodyworking this. Next stage of the process is underway. A bit of filler, a little bit on top of the roof there, and we've got that section just repaired over there, and this one here. Majority of that will be sanded off. I've been sanding and doing a hell of a lot of sanding. Almost finished the body filler part. If we get our magneto out, you see it's not very thick. It still sticks. The thickest part that I've found is not here. Where that low spot is, that's probably the thickest part of it. And it's just got a little bit of magnetizing in it. I'd rather it be a little bit of filler there and in the proper shape, then have a bit of warpage funny looking there, because that's going to be at the front of the car and everyone's going to notice it. But that, if you didn't know that was there, you wouldn't know that there was a repair there. That's pretty flat. I'm happy with that. Going to give it a once over with, say, 180 before I etch prime it. They're good. That's good. There we go, guys. That about wraps up this repair. It's come up quite well. Once that's primed, sanded, undercoated, painted, it's come up very, very well. Even the top of that roof there, I've managed to get that pretty straight without any waves or anything. That's turned out well. I haven't managed to destroy the top of the dash. Underneath is a different story. I'm not going to lie to you, that was a bloody tough job. Bloody tough, but I got it done and am fairly happy with it. All the shapes are right in the right places. It's all nice and solid. Can't complain about that. Now, originally when I bought this car in this section here, it had filler in it and it was lifted up and cracked. So moisture had got in it and done some damage. So I stripped the whole roof, tried to repair the rust, didn't quite go to plan, slapped some filler on it and then primed it and left it. First things first is strip off the primer and the surface rust. Somewhere around this section is going to be a bit of bog. That is now done. It's a lot worse than what I had imagined. The roof is not flat. The roof is rusty. Here, there is a low spot. Back there's all right, low spot there, low spot there. And they're quite large too, like that and that. Like it's like someone's stood on the roof or something at one stage. I thought the rust was here, but no, it's here. What I think's happened here is at some stage, something's fallen on this roof and put a big dent there. There's a little one there and a big one there. And it was probably poorly repaired. That's why it had the filler and that's why it cracked. And that's why it's rusted. Now I did have a go a couple of years ago at repairing that, and that didn't go so successfully. That's why I'm back here again, but it's also rusted here in the gutter. It looks as though from maybe here around, it's really wavy there too, and there. So not only whatever's fallen there, has gone up here as well. At least that much is going to have to be cut out and repaired. First things first, I decided to cut that little bit off from which I had there like that. Why make it harder? Let's just make it a big rectangle. I've started to clean up that. That's coming up nicely, but I can't get into every nook and cranny. So I'm going to bust out the rust converter to stop that and try and wash it down each side so we don't have this repeat in the future. That's primed, ready to go. Patch pieces made. I'll get a few tacks on that. I don't want to get it hot or it's going to buckle and warp badly. I've got a few tacks in that. So basically what I'm doing is welding a spot and then just feeling the steel around it. And if I can touch it, I will do another weld. If it's too hot, I'll leave it. That is welded in. It's time to grind it back. Panel is now ground back. It's not 100% perfect. I am going to put filler in it. The roof is so hacked up to about this point here that this half of the roof, probably from around here forward, is going to need some form of filler. Here it is. Yes, the etch prime has shown up a few little pinholes, but that's okay. That will be touched up before bodywork and paint. All I wanted to do was get that looking pretty damn close to the finished product. The rust repair section has turned out quite well, which is right here. I'm going to tackle the rubbery sound deadener on the floor here because we need to see if there's any rust. It's slow, but I'm getting there. I have pretty much done up to that rubber bit there, which I need to take out and continue under there. Finish the tunnel off, have made it into the back. This side is now complete. It is quite smooth. The front footwell is done. I have almost filled that bucket. I have been chipping away, and look at that. It's all up. All that's left to do now is to get this cleaned up. Well, there we have it. That's a snippet of how you clean up, or how I clean up the rubbery residue left over. There's obviously better and easier ways to do this. For example, dry ice, and probably a number of other ways to do it, but me, I wanted to do the cheapest way, which was hammer and screwdriver and chisel, because it's cheap. But the other thing was, once I got in the zone, you know, it wasn't that bad. The seam sealer has now had time to dry and is lovely and hard. So now I need to look at painting the floor, because there is bare metal spots in there and I don't want that to rust underneath. I do have a bucket of full cream halloumi Cyprian style paint that has been poorly mixed with the wrong reducer, leaving it unsprayable. So I want to paint the floor with this. It's very gluggy and lumpy, so there's not really anything I can really do with it. So that, instead of waste it, I want to put a couple of coats on the floor. I strongly believe that I'm going to have to prime this, but I'm going to do a test patch anyway and see whether it looks any good. Oh, it's not too bad actually. And yes, I am painting with a brush. I believe a couple of coats of that's going to be smashing, so I'll set you up to watch me do some boring painting. First coat of floor paint is on. Yes, it will need another coat. And if I've got enough, I'll probably do 3 coats. I've even gone up behind the back seat. That looks a lot better than the floor. Second coat is now done. And if you have a gander in there, you'll see how lumpy and gluggy that the paint was that would have been unable to get through the gun. It's time to get this underlay, heat shield, noise reduction, whatever you want to call it, stuff in. I'm going with Underdog soundproofing. I've got 2 pieces in, cut out for the seat belts. Not the seat belts, the seat bolts. That's the seat belt over there, so I'll have to do that for the next ones. So it is going down nicely. I have added in the small little gaps around the tunnel that hadn't been done. And then I went right up into the footwell as well. And that, boys and girls, is a job done. Before I get this off, I have bought the hood scoop, the reverse cowl for the bonnet. When I get to that stage, there we have our 2-piece tail shaft. Well, there you go. The motor is out. Now I've placed it down the back there. The plan is to unbolt it from there, put it on the back of the head so it's a bit more balanced, and then we'll get it in the shed. That is out and away. I'm not going to lie to you all, since I pulled that out, it's nearly a week because old Captain Sawback here hurt his back again, didn't he? I want to get it all out, transducer out, probably booster and master out, fully remove the fuse box, Hopefully by the time I've got that cleaned up, I can test fit that. The motor, not the dog. I managed to get the engine wiring harness out. Shifters, original 3-speed. This, when you shift it up and back, has only got first, second, drive, neutral, reverse, park. What we're putting in is a 4-speed. We need to get into the Statesman, get this top plate off and swap it over with this one. And then we'll put the original shifter back on and get rid of that stupid looking VRVS shift knob. Just looking in here at the two, if I just move that one up there, you know, both have a set of wiring that obviously go to the neutral safety switch, reverse lights, shifter light, all that kind of stuff. This one has a really long piece of wiring. That one has a really short one. I'm guessing it's all going to be pretty similar. I might have to get that back under the dash where that belongs. I guess it's get this off, see if I can swap over the shifters and get the motor and box in for trial fitment. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to transplant the top of that to the top of that, weld it back on, and then the VK shifter will fit back into the VK housing and can go back into the VK car. The first thing I have to do now is mark out where I want to cut that and then line it up to that and make sure it goes in the right spot. I did take a template of the 4-speed one, and it's so damn close to the 3-speed one you wouldn't believe it. If I put that on there, see, park's the same, reverse is the same, but neutral and drive are slightly different, and then you've got second and first slightly different as well up the back. That's the difference. I'm just about ready to cut, and I've trimmed out my little template that I made out of some paper, and if you look at that inside section there, that has to be ground out a couple of mil because it's slightly different on the VK one, whereas this is actually thicker on this one than it is on that one. That piece is cut and ground that shape there. I've scribed where I want to cut, so I'm going to cut above that so I can always shave down to get to the right height. Okay, I've done the cut and I've vice gripped it on here. So if you have a look, now it's not the final height, it's probably a little bit too high, as you'll see when I go through the gears into reverse. So we're in park there, reverse, neutral, drive, third, second, first. So if you see there, it's really close to get over the gate for reverse. So that will get some more clearance once I grind it down a little bit. But that's the desired result I want with the shifter that I want. So it's time to clean up that, get off the galvanizing and get ready to weld it. The vice clamps are gone. If you have a look in there, it is now welded on both sides. So that's all good and working as it should be. But the next problem now is the lever that goes on here doesn't fit. So I'm gonna have to trim a bit off the top here so it can fit on there, that we can connect it to the linkage. So that's what's up next. That's clearanced off maybe 3 to 4 mil. So that's got nice movement now. Shifter is connected up to the rod, and holding this steady we can get through the gears. So then we go putt reverse, and then we go into drive and first. It's not secured, so it's a bit hard, but it does cycle through the gears quite nicely. And what you want to do is you want to keep your whole VS set up. As I mentioned earlier, grind the top of that, so when the shifter moves, that arm will move too. And then you're going to have to just bang it with a hammer, just get less bend on that. You don't really have to do that one, but that one's the one that you have to get so it'll fit inside the tunnel. It should pretty much go back in the same slot as the original, and we're going to try and put the motor in the hole. Motor's in, and this is the clearance issue that you have with the 4L60E. Is that right there just needs a bit of massaging on the tunnel. That's all it needs to do. Other than that,
Go up still.
it fits in pretty good. It has to come back out so we can massage the tunnel, and once the massaging's done, we'll put it back in and check it. Exhaust manifold bolts in, engine mount bolts are back in. Still waiting for that trans cross member, but that shouldn't be too far away, and we'll get that in and see if we can straighten that up from that to about that. Look what's arrived, my trans cross member. Well, would you look at that? It is in, finally. I have managed to get about a 7 to 8 mil gap here between the pan and the frame rail, so that's not hitting, so that's good. It's nice and secured in. Should have just been bolt in, really. Has taken me 3 days of piss farting around and, you know, oblonging holes and all that kind of stuff to get it in, but it's in now. The motor's sitting in its final resting position, and I'm happy about that, I can tell you. Here I have the two tail shafts out of the VK and the VR. I have the VR here and the VK here. I've got the centre bearing lined up, and the front half of this is a tad longer than that, and then you can see the back half is a lot longer than the back half of the VK. What do I need to do? You split both halves, and I want to keep the front half of that to go with the 4L60E, and then I want the back half of the VK to meet up with the diff onto this front half of the VR. Technically, it should bolt straight in. Yes, that's worked. That's loosened one off. I have got the rear half off the VR one. So basically what I did was just a hammer and screwdriver and just tapped it till it came off. So I'll do the same with this one. Took a lot longer than expected. That was really stuck. Now what I had to do was get rid of the screwdriver and get a big meaty extension and whack the heck out of it, and it slid off. The time has come to see if this fits. It's true. You can put the front half of one and the back half of another and it fits bloody good too.
So what we're going to do today is get the engine harness into this car. That went in not too bad. I did plug in the computer, and the wire thickness actually fits into that grommet. Now, as per the original computer harness, all I have left to do now is work out where all this goes. Bit more work's been done. I would say 85% of the wiring harness is back on. Injectors are plugged in, map sensor, O2 sensor, throttle bodies plugged in. Down there is the oil pressure. We've got temp and some other plug there, and that remaining 2 plugs there go to those relays. And there's a few grounds that need to be done, like there's one there that goes on the alternator, and there's one there that needs to go on the back of the head. The wiring that's going to complete this conversion. Now, the reason I went with the V6 conversions trans cross member is because I got it in a kit with this, which includes rest of the wiring harness for the motor and the under dash wiring. Also the speedo conversion from, cable to run with the 4L60E, and the security box to make the thing run. First signs of this harness are pretty good. These 3 plugs here just go onto that plug, and that plug. And I'm guessing these ones here are going to go into that loom there somewhere. I have it plugged in there. I have the BCM plugged in. On the shifter you run the VR little module thing there, because this plugs straight into that. But I've got the workshop manual here. I've worked out that this one here is the speed sensor one, but I can't find it because none of the colors are the same. But that works out to be here, which is panel D, which has the speedo input, the tacho, and the temperature. So that's the one that I'm looking for. I just need to find it. Then I just need ignition key and fuel pump and alternator. This has just happened, so let me show you what has occurred. Now that it's turning over, I thought I'd go and spray a bit of down the throttle body and see if it'll pop off, but nope, no fire. I'm going to check for spark, see if it's got spark, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's the few wires that I haven't got connected up. That's why it's not firing. First thing I'm going to try now is see if it's got any spark. No, I do not have spark. Let's find out why there's no spark. I have spark, it now fires. The issue why I didn't have spark is this pink wire here. This has to go to ignition. Now, I had it in this pigtail of wiring on ignition, but what was happening was when I was putting it actually to crank, where I had it had no power, and that's why I had no spark. We have a running conversion. The disassembly is going well. Exhaust is off and out. Trans mount is loosened with a jack underneath it. Crane is hooked up, ready to go. Fuse box out, air box out. I'm going to leave as much stuff on as I can. Throttle disconnected.
All this spaghetti disconnected, fuel lines disconnected. Yeah, it's pretty much now undo the trans mount and I think it's ready to yank out, I reckon.
And there it is in its resting place for the next 1 to 3, 6 months. We have an empty engine bay again. After a few hours, it's pretty much degreased. I'm working my way through grinding the paint off. I am up to the back side of the shock tower and I have discovered the body number stamped into the shock tower, which I didn't know existed there. One other thing old fat boy here didn't realise is every time I get in and out of this engine bay, I've been stepping on this to get in and out of the car, and then I was looking at it the other day and thought, what's going on with that? And it squashed. That can't hold my fat ass, so I've had to straighten all that up. Still got a little bit more work on there, but that's all hidden by the bumper anyway. But all this piece is now back level again, as well as the underneath. There we have it. Half of the engine bay in etch, the hard side to go. First plan is master cylinder out, because I can't continue to finish cleaning up the engine bay with that in, so it has to come out. Originally, I did not want to touch the brakes, but if the master cylinder is coming out, let's work on the brakes. Standard VK calipers, VL 6-cylinder, are same. This is the V8 caliper. Now that will be a direct bolt-on, same mounting holes, everything's the same to go on that. It's just slightly bigger. Can't for the life of me get the other side off, but have managed to loosen this side. This one can come off. I finally got nut off that. I ended up having to do was cut the brake hose in half to get the thing off, because it was full on jammed in there and wasn't going to come out. Just to prove to you all that I wasn't lying, that these will bolt straight on, there you go. I will have to buy new rotors. I will need the 290mm rotors instead of the 270. While I've been waiting for the brake pads to come in, I finished stripping the engine bay down. That is now all in etch. I've got my rotors. Again, we're going with a change of plan. I was going to put the rotor and the new bearings and everything on, and I thought, what's the point? We may as well do the rubbers and stuff as well while we're here. Ball joints will be redone. We'll also redo the tie rod ends, the steering boots, because they're no good either. We'll redo the sway bar link, and of course the lower control arm as well. Lower control arm is out. This is the inner tie rod removal tool. I also took the strut off too. The whole wheel arch has been painted black and stone guarded and looks quite respectable, if I do say so myself. That all went together without too much issues. Obviously, new control arm, new bushes. It was tight getting it into the mounting spot and then trying to line up that bolt hole to get that bolt through everything. Well, I'm going to fine tune that. That is now on and as tight can be. And when I took the old one off, it never had one of those locking washers or whatever they're called on. But the new kit did come with one, so I have put that on. And if you can see at the back there, that's just bent over those tabs there. Put a bit of grease on the steering shaft. The lubrication. Yes, this tie rod is sticking out further than the ball joint because I do have the wheel at full lock to the right for more access here. Okay, it took a while, but I got it on, and I also got that vent tube thing in. I just need to put the damn thing back together. So it's lowered king springs, lowered shocks, new toppy bit here, new rubbery bit here, give it a nice lick of paint, ready to put back on. Right, now that's painted. Now it's time to start putting the thing together. And first thing we're going to start with is the shock absorber. So there's the new coil spring and the old coil spring. So the yellow one is V8, red one is 6-cylinder. And I've got new strut tops from Resto Country. These bolt straight in up the top. That is now ready to go back in the car. Now that the caliper's on, this side is pretty much buttoned up, other than the steel brake lines, which won't go back in until after the engine bay is painted. So both sides done, new rotors, new calipers, new shocks, new springs, new ball joints, new tie rod ends, new sway bar links, yada yada yada. While I was cleaning up the underside of here, I did remove that Commodore sculpt that is there. No, it's not perfect. Still needs some fine work on there to get it smooth, but that's pretty much belted out. Once that's sanded back, maximum thickness is going to be 1 mil, so it's going to be sweet FA. That's probably as good as I'm going to get it. The top bit there, where that bulge was, is looking pretty good. So is the new battery tray housing. I've started
Down here, I've got that tray out and I'm just having a go at this bottom tray here, which is very badly damaged. That's enough hammer and dollying for me, and that's about as good as I'm going to get it. That's pretty much buttoned up. Still got a little bit more to do there, and I have started cleaning up the plenum because I never got to that previously. As you can see, I have not masked up but foiled up the wiring that I do not want painted. Basically, it's just clean this down and get some primer on it. Engine bay is primed. Wow, look at that. I have been a busy beaver and sanded back all of what you see here. We're re-rubbed back and wax and grease removed, and we're just mixing up some paint. Painting is done. Look at that shine already off the gun. Well, the unmasking so far is going well. So all the areas that I had taped up with tape, pulling the tape off hasn't pulled up any paint or anything yet. How nice does it look under lights? The booster is back in. Getting the rod back hooked back up to the pedal was not a fun thing to do. Left-hand brake line, right-hand brake line, and master cylinder on. As you can see there, the ID tags are back on. I'm hoping I can get my older brother Roscoe to come up next weekend. So if I can get it prepped and ready and he can come, we can whack it in and hopefully it'll be in within 10-15 minutes.
How about that rust around the front window, eh? Woofda! But the car's rust free now. We've test fitted the engine, it runs. Now we've got a nice shiny new engine bay. How about that, eh? Look out for the next one in a few days and we'll continue the build.